The Colts checked off some big boxes on Friday night, and they keep making my co-host very happy. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Colts, your daily Indianapolis Colts podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, friends? Thanks for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day, probably because it's about to be midnight, so this one it's going to account for. This is your daily podcast covering your Indianapolis Colts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. If you've ever dreamed of becoming an NFL GM yourself and managing your own franchise, then this game is definitely for you. To download it, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up on your app store. Our listeners get a 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On in all caps in the game. I am Jake Arthur. He is Zach Hicks. I have been camped out here at the Colts facility for a couple days now. It'll continue through to tomorrow. Zach has been busting hump, giving interviews on these draft picks, putting out film room pieces on them. So hang with us here and on horseshoehuddle.com. We got some good stuff for you. Today was day 2 of the draft, which meant rounds 2 and 3. The Colts, as you knew they would at some point, got the day started by trading back twice from their original pick at 35. They first went down to 38 and then from 38 to 44. In the process, they added a 4th-round pick, 110 overall, and a 5th-round pick, 141st overall. They wound up making 2 selections. They drafted Kansas State cornerback JuJu Brents at 44 and North Carolina wide receiver Josh Downs at 79. We're going to talk about those picks as well as what we would like to see happen on Saturday, day 3 of the draft, because they do have 3 players, but they also have 8 more picks on Saturday. So there's double the work to be done still. So Zach, JuJu Brents is a big get. That's another Build-A-Ballard guy. 9.65 on the RAS, so another elite athlete. 6'2", some consider him 6'3", 198, 34-inch arms. He's got decent speed, 4.5 speed, but he jumps out of the gym. 41.5-inch vertical, 11-foot, 6-inch broad jump. So this is a guy you've had on your radar. It is very much a Colts-style cornerback, and it's a position they needed dearly.
You know, it's funny. You just said Build-A-Ballard corner, and I'm trying to think. I think he was my number 1 Build-A-Ballard corner this year.
I think he was. He was the display photo of it, if I remember correctly.
He was, wasn't he? I think I even claimed him early in the process as the Alec Pierce of cornerbacks.
Yeah, there you go.
I think that's. I don't know how. I was just so busy today with all the pick stuff. I completely forgot. I could have really championed that. I'll have to go champion that tomorrow and really toot my own horn with that. But no, I really like Julius Brents. Yes, there are some concerns. The foot speed is not exactly where you want it to be. He can have the propensity to be beat deep. But when you're really looking at this type of player, I mean, again, 34-inch arms, he's going to be so physical and attacking there at the line of scrimmage. He's so explosive. So when you get him into those cover 3 sets, those cover 3 shuffles or whatever, and he's coming downhill, that is the type of guy that you want, a guy who's going to explode downhill, a guy who can break up passes with ease, with that length, with that explosion. I'm all for it. I love this pick. He's a guy that I think can start day 1. Yes, it would be a little bit like Rock Ya-Sin during his rookie season where, you know, you see some flashes, but overall it's going to be kind of a rough season. But, you know, the Colts are not in this window right now where we are trying to win a Super Bowl next year. It would be awesome. We would love to win a Super Bowl next year. But when you're looking at kind of the direction the Colts are going with the quarterback position and a couple other spots, it's really just getting these young guys on the field, letting them play, let them work through some of the tougher aspects of their game and letting them go. So I think a guy like Julius Brents has the potential and the frame to be a really good starting corner. You're just going to have to live through some of the lumps and bruises early on. But I really like him. I really like him for the strong side cornerback position. You're going to have Isaiah Rodgers on that backside. When you face those 3x1s and you are going to have kind of that backside being man-to-man, you're going to have Isaiah Rodgers and your weak side linebacker and man-to-man. You're going to have that strong side dropping into a traditional cover 3. And that's what Julius Brents is going to be able to do. He's going to be able to get into that shuffle. He's going to get back. He's going to be able to read what's in front of him and attack downhill. I really do think Julius Brents is a perfect fit for Gus Bradley's scheme.
Yeah, and you just touched on something I was about to mention, and that's the role that he's going to play. Right now, by default, he's pretty much a starter.
Yeah.
I imagine they'll have him compete with Dallas Flowers for that other outside spot at the moment. But, I mean, they just been a top 50 pick on a corner. One thing that is going to make things a little tougher for him is I think he's going to miss spring ball, or at least the full activity of it, because he does have a left wrist injury. And Chris Ballard said that's going to keep him out until training camp, but he will be there for camp. When I talked to him at the local pro day, he said he was going to be fine for football stuff after the draft. Maybe it's something where the team is like, no, we're going to hold you a little bit. But regardless, it's a wrist thing. Basically, he can run, he just can't punch. Like he doesn't have, they're not giving him the full green light on using that arm physically. So
yeah,
I don't know how much that's going to hold him back, but it will somewhat. Do they still need more corners? Because I think yes.
Yeah. I mean, there's always room to add there, and luckily they have 8 picks to work with here on day 3. There's still quality corners there in free agency, like Rock Ya-Sin, like Shaquille Griffin. There are guys that they can add. So I highly doubt this is the only corner we're going to see the Colts add the rest of the offseason. But again, Julius Brents is a guy where if you have to start him all year and he's going to play 70-80% of the snaps, I think that's fine. Like, again, you're going to get some lumps and bruises in there, but I think it'll be fine. But ideally, yeah, you get a guy like a Rock Ya-Sin or someone in there to kind of alleviate some of the pressure you put on this young corner. But again, I want to reiterate that I think Julius Brents is the type of player where with the right time, with the right coaching and getting that technique kind of ironed out a little bit. And luckily, again, the Colts have Ron Miles there as their DB coach, just a phenomenal coach that knows how to get the best out of his defensive backs. I really think Julius Brents can be a solid starting corner. And I think the potential is immense here in Gus Bradley's scheme.
Yeah, and I get the feeling that Brent's probably had a strong feeling for a while that he might be coming here. Number one, it's where he wanted to be as a local kid. He comes from Warren Central High School. Of course, one of the blue blood high school programs here in Indy. But during the local pro day, he also spent an inordinate amount of time talking with Shane Steichen. And he was kind of ho-hum on it at the time because the draft wasn't here yet. But I have a feeling some things were discussed of like, if we could get you here, this and this and this. So yeah, he's excited to be here. He was in Westfield where the Colts actually have training camp for his draft party today. So good day for JuJu. He wanted to be here. Great pickup for the Colts. So next, we're going to discuss what new receiver Josh Downs brings to the Colts. But first, a word from our friends over at Ultimate Football GM. Today's show is brought to you by Ultimate Football GM. You've heard us talk all about this game for months now. And again, if you ever thought you would make a great GM, you love the draft, you love Madden, you love fantasy, all that stuff, this game is right up your alley. With the draft here, you're responsible for controlling everything about your team, from the front office, training staff, picks, players, everything. Locked On Colts listeners, you get a 100% free boost to your franchise when using the promo code Locked On in all caps in the game store. That's Locked On in all caps, so make sure to check it out today. To download the game, just visit ultimate-gm.com or look it up in the App Store. That's ultimate-gm.com.
And guys, join Kyle Krabs, Joe Marino, and other Locked On NFL experts on the Locked On NFL Scouting YouTube page over for their live NFL draft coverage presented by Ultimate Football GM. Kyle and Joe will be live on Saturday, getting you caught up after each and every round. All right, Jake, so let's talk about the more surprising pick here, because Julius Brents is a player that I think we all kind of expected it to be a target. Again, like you said, a Build-A-Ballard champion, apparently. I need to go back and check my own work there to see if that's really what it is. But we're going to say a Build-A-Ballard champion, Julius Brents there. Josh Downs is the opposite of a Build-A-Ballard champion. Build-A-Ballard wide receivers, they're 6'3", 215 pounds, jump 50 inches. Like, these guys are all vertical threat guys. You're not really going to get underneath separators. But Josh Downs is exactly that. 5'9", 171 pounds. But he's an all-underneath player that knows how to get open. Jake, I'm going to give my opinions on Josh Downs here in a second. But what do you think about Josh Downs?
Yeah, of course, a little uncharacteristic for Chris Ballard, who definitely has a type, those 6 foot, 200-pound receivers. But I see why they like him. I asked Josh, I was like, I'll be honest, the Colts have a type, and you aren't necessarily at size-wise. So, like, what have they told you about your role? He doesn't necessarily know it yet, but, he said he's able to play inside or out. Chris Ballard said that as well. Ballard did address downsize when he talked to us after the draft. He acknowledged they obviously normally like the bigger guys, but despite his measurements, his build is actually a lot bigger than that. Like, he's thick in the quads, he's got a thick lower body, and that's that can honestly be kind of important because the weight distribution and everything. I just don't think they're concerned about him being undersized and getting hurt and everything. He's also a little different. These smaller guys with speed, a lot of times you think downfield threats, things like that. Like you said earlier, he's all underneath. I think he's going to clean up for Anthony Richardson and Gardner Minshew. He is that money down, third down guy we talked about. I saw a tweet from Mina Kimes earlier that was perfect. She said Anthony Richardson can struggle with short accuracy, but the good news is that Downs catches everything. We talked to Downs after he was picked. He loved the fact he was coming here with Anthony Richardson. Loves the player, loves the upside. He said all along he wanted to go to a place where he could grow with a young quarterback, and so he's ecstatic to be here. He was uber productive, over 200 catches, nearly 2,500 yards, 22 touchdowns in the last 3 years. So,
yeah,
I think it's a pretty good pick.
Yeah, no, let me talk about why I think this is such a great pick for Shane Steichen's offense. Because, again, this whole offseason, I've been saying Shane Steichen's this explosive vertical offense guy. That's all he wants. But you need to set up that vertical game with the underneath game. You can't just throw the ball down the field 50 times a game and expect that to have tangible or efficient results. You have to pepper the short game to open up the deep game. And the Colts, they have the deep threat guys. They have Alec Pierce. They have Jelani Woods. They have Michael Pittman Jr. These are guys that can win vertically down the field. They did not have the underneath separator. They did not have that at all outside of Kylan Granson. Kylan Granson generated some separation last year, but that's not the type of guy that you want to rely on. Your second string tight end to be your prime separator. With Josh Downs, they have a guy who can get open, and that is so, so vital for what the Colts need, because Shane Steichen, again, his offense is about attacking vertically, but also attacking horizontally. We're going to make you cover sideline to sideline, end zone to end zone every single play. You're covering 200 yards of field, not just the 100. You're covering the entire football field every single snap. And a guy like Josh Downs, you can use him in so many different ways. You're gonna sneak him out there in those bunch sets. You're gonna put him as the inside receiver on the 3x1s. You can even put him as the backside receiver on 3x1s because he knows how to get open on those. You can put him in the backfield and run some Texas routes out of there. I saw North Carolina did that quite a bit last year.
I like that idea.
Oh yeah, no, he was good on them last year. And Shane Steichen has this play design where it's the 4 verts and then you have the Texas route out of the backfield. I could just totally envision, Jelani Woods, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., Isaiah McKenzie out wide, and then you get Josh Downs in the backfield running a Texas route against a linebacker. That is what Shane Steichen's going to be able to do with a playmaker like Josh Downs. And then on top of that, this is a guy who can win contested catches despite his smaller size and smaller frame. So this is a player where I think Anthony Richardson's going to love. And like Mina Kimes said, if you have a quarterback that struggles with underneath accuracy, getting a pure separator that can also catch the ball in contested situations is the perfect weapon for him. So I think Shane Steichen's going to have a blast mixing him in on mesh concepts and bunch concepts and getting him in those 3x1 sets. But I also think Anthony Richardson's going to love to have a weapon like this where, look, I have my vertical guys. I have my guys I can just throw it deep and hope they win the jump ball. But now we have a guy who, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6, he's going to get open and get me that first down. Shane Steichen's always had this. He had this with Keenan Allen in Los Angeles. He had it with Devonta Smith the last 2 years. Now we have it with Josh Downs in Indianapolis. I'm not saying he's the same caliber as those guys, but it's the same archetype. It's the same mold that the Colts were missing. So yeah, I'm really high on this. I wasn't even that high on Josh Downs as a prospect, but I am really high on his fit in Indianapolis.
Yeah, and I mean he's a mid-third round pick, but I could see him being an instant impact player. And I'll tell you who was high on this pick was wide receivers coach Reggie Wayne and Morocco Brown in the front office. Both of those guys, I don't know if they were stand on the table for Downs, but they both were like, yeah, we really need this guy. Apparently Reggie Wayne told Chris Ballard at the combine that Downs was just incredible. And Wayne told Downs that he was the best receiver in his group, and that included some first rounders as well. But no, they're really high on him for all the reasons you just said. I think they're really eager to get him in there. And essentially what they're missing in losing Nyheim Hines is probably some stuff they can get back with him. He's obviously not going to be lined up at running back and stuff as often as Hines was, but we could see some gadgety stuff like that. But just in general, their guy that cleans up underneath what used to be Hines and Paris Campbell, that's going to be Downs and Isaiah McKenzie now.
Yeah. No, this is what Shane Steichen wants. You get your vertical threat in Isaiah McKenzie to go along with your Alec Pierce and your Michael Pittman Jr. and all them. But then you get this guy who can get open underneath. It is so, so vital. And honestly, again, I don't want to go too much on this because we have a whole off season worth of content to fill here, but Shane Steichen is a big subscriber to empty theory and working out of empty personnel and empty sets. When you have a player like Josh Downs, where if you're going to put him as the innermost receiver on these empty sets, and he's going to be lined up against a linebacker or a safety in there, where your quarterback's read is just, I'm looking at that linebacker. If they're shading inside, I'm throwing it outside. If they're shading outside, I'm throwing it inside because Josh Downs is going to win that matchup. That is what the Colts needed. They did not have that before this, and it was going to hurt the Colts' ability to do empty theory and empty personnel here next season. But again, having a guy like Josh Downs who can win those matchups, not only like quickly, but just with ease, that is going to be so big for the Colts running empty. And then getting, obviously, Anthony Richardson in that empty personnel so he can run QB power and QB, out of empty there up the middle. So I really think Josh Downs is going to be a really, really strong addition to this Colts team. But guys, before we discuss what we'd like to see on day 3 of the draft, let's hear from our sponsor, Built. Looking for a delicious snack but don't want all the sugar and calories? Then you need the best tasting protein bar ever. That's Built. You've got to try this. If you're like me and you want to make healthier snack choices but you don't want to compromise on taste, I got the thing for you, Built Bars and Built Puffs. Built Bars are healthy and taste amazing. Seriously, they taste so amazing, you won't even think that they're good for you. And now you don't even need to wait to get a box. For years, we've been talking about ordering Built Bars at Built.com, but now you can get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club. While you still get your specialty flavors there at Built.com. That's right. Head to your nearest Walmart today, walk to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a box of Built Bars. You can pick up a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate bar, or coconut puff. If you're close to a Sam's Club, run in and grab a 13-bar box with our hit flavors, brownie batter puff and churro puff. You guys can thank me later. All right, Jake, so you said at the very top of this show here, like Chris Ballard traded back a ton today, and I love it. Keep adding those picks. Just keep stockpiling shots at the NFL draft. Cheap young talent that you're going to be bringing in here to compete. That's always the way to go. And again, they still got their guy they were targeting at 35. They got him at 44 while picking up 2 prime picks here on day 3. So as of right now, 8 picks tomorrow. They have 8 picks. They own the 5th round. They have 4 picks in that 5th round, along with 2 4th rounders and 2 7th rounders. I'm excited, man. They're just going to be able to take so many shots here. I'm assuming there'll be some trade ups and moving around a little bit, maybe getting some picks for next season as well. But the Colts are in prime position to add some real young talent here on day 3.
Yeah, some of those picks almost disappeared because Ballard said they were trying for like 30 minutes to trade up for Josh Downs, and it just didn't materialize. But no, what we're going to see with these picks, I'm sure a couple of them will go away with a trade up, but you're going to see some key special teams players, which is probably going to come in the form of linebackers, at least one or two, I would say, as a safety. But no, you have so much ammo to work with and fill all these holes. They drafted 3 needs right off the bat, which means they could pretty much do whatever they want with these. Like, these picks come with no strings attached, no pressure. So any player they choose to use these on, best player available, they can go ahead and do that. So there are several key players still available. Kelly Ringo was someone that we would have been comfortable with at 35. There's injury concerns there, I believe. Same with DeJuan Jones, another guy you could have taken at 35. Some really quality players here. Is there anyone that you've got circled?
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned a couple guys there. I'm shocked that Luke Whippler out of Ohio State slipped to day 3, but I get some of the concerns there. Jalen Duncan, I know there were some overall concerns there. Nick Saldiveri, I'm a huge fan of out of Old Dominion. You guys can see that in the Indy draft guide. Like, I love him. I think he's a great young player, and I think it's going to be a steal wherever he goes here on day 3. But I fully expect a handful of these picks to be offensive linemen. I really do think a lot of these are going to be offensive linemen, because if you look at the Colts offensive line right now, you have 6 guys, maybe 7 that are locked to make the team next year. I honestly, 7's probably a stretch. I think it's like 5 or 6 that are locks to make the team next year. They need depth. Like, even if they're not drafting guys to start, just getting more bodies in the room to compete. And there's going to be a lot of quality guys here on day 3. I know the Michigan center is a guy that they're really high on. I'm not even going to attempt his name, but you guys can look it up. Because
Dustin is a big fan of him. He's been pointing him out a lot.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say Olu, I think is how you say his first 3 letters of his first name. You guys can look him up, though. I think the Colts are pretty high on him. Chandler Zavala, I think, is another guy that they're pretty high on. And John Gaines II out of UCLA is another guy I think they're pretty high on. Super athlete there from UCLA who can play all 5 positions. I wouldn't be shocked if he was one of their first picks here on day 3. But yeah, I think they're going to add a lot of depth and competition to the offensive line. And then I still wouldn't be shocked whatsoever if they go get a guy like Dalton Reisner in free agency. The Colts are still, I think, 3rd in cap space right now. And they're going to leave this draft with potential holes still at corner, potential holes still at right guard. So I don't think the Colts are done adding whatsoever here, and obviously not in the draft, but in free agency. So if you guys come out of day 3 being like, oh my gosh, they didn't draft a starting right guard, don't worry. They still have some money. They still have some time. The Colts have made signings after the draft before. It happens. I wouldn't be too shocked there to see a signing at one of those spots.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to be adding some bodies in the trenches. That's 2 areas Chris Ballard pointed out. They like the offensive line depth and the defensive line depth. It sounded to me like offensive line was something they had wanted to try and address to this point already, but just weren't able to, just how their board fell. But I think they're definitely going to do it. They'll do it here coming up on Saturday. I do like their current defensive tackle depth, but I think they could use probably one more capable pass rusher on the outside. That's always something that they're going to look for. So it'll be a good day on day 3. It'll also allow them to lock up some guys they thought would be undrafted free agents. I'm sure they'd prefer to do that in the 6th or 7th round if they want to trade down again. But they've got 8 picks in 4 rounds. They can do whatever they want.
Yeah, they can move around all they want. They can draft positions that going into the draft we were like, oh, they probably won't draft that. They'll be able to throw some safeties in there. They could draft a running back. They could draft a linebacker, which I fully expect a linebacker pick somewhere here on day 3.
At least one, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely expect a linebacker pick because that's where you grab your special teamers, and linebackers are the prime special teamers. Ballard will grab somebody with some special teams experience who can maybe play a little bit on defense as well. So it's going to be a fun day. There's a lot of picks. I I really don't expect the Colts to come out of this with 8 new players tomorrow.
No.
Like I would guess it's more around 6 to 7, maybe 5, even if they keep moving up quite a bit. But he'll be able to wheel and deal quite a bit and take some guys that he really likes there. So excited for tomorrow. Again, a lot of talent still on the board. Chris Ballard did mention that. And Colts have 2 picks within the first 10 tomorrow. So they're going to be able to get some of that talent that, if you guys are looking at this, like Keely Ringo, Adi out of Northwestern, Darius Rush, Chandler Zavala, like we mentioned, like these are guys that we expected to go day 2, slip to day 3 for injury concerns or whatever else is happening behind the scenes. And this is where the Colts could maybe scoop up some legit talent there early in round 4.
I'd also throw tight end into the mix too. It's a group that Chris Ballard mentioned before the draft, and our guy Payne Durham is still out there. They could use another young blocking tight end right now.
Yeah. A lot of ways the Colts could go with this, guys. Make sure you are keeping up with Locked On Colts, obviously. And every day, as you know that we've got you covered with all these draft picks and UDFAs coming tomorrow. Pick to pick. Stay tuned with us for analysis on each selection. And obviously, we're going to be going live tomorrow after the draft is finally concluded, and just talk about our overall thoughts about day 3 and the draft itself. So make sure you guys are following us on social medias at Locked On Colts, at Jake Arthur NFL, and at Zach Hicks 2 on Twitter. Also subscribe to Locked On Colts on YouTube, wherever you listen to your podcast. We love your ratings, reviews, and guys, we will see you after day 3 tomorrow.